Welcome, Queen. Have you ever experienced feeling stress, frustration, or just overwhelmed trying to achieve success? If so, understand I too was there. And so I know what it feels like to find yourself in a place where you thought you would be further than where you are now, to where life is not turning out as you envision. And oftentimes, what we don't fail to see is that we're in that state, we're in that space due to lack of development of ourselves. And that's why today I'm going to be sharing with you some critical gems to help you see the impact of how developing the relationship you have with yourself is truly a factor on your success. And here's the first thing: going back. Too often we find ourselves in spaces, in states where we're going back. We are revisiting the past. Things that we can't change, people who we can't change, and yet we wonder why we can't move forward. It's almost as though we have gotten in a car and said we're going to drive forward, but we have the gear in reverse. That is the state in which some of us sometimes we live our lives. And so today I want to challenge you to think about the choices that you are making and to consider if those choices are taking you continuously back to places and spaces where there's nothing to glean, meaning there's no lesson that you can learn that will benefit your life and help you move your life forward in a positive direction. I want you to think about and to consider whether or not you are going back, trying to revive or relive or rekindle a relationship with a guy from your past. Because oftentimes that is a big hang up for us as ladies. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a romantic partner in your life. There's nothing wrong with wanting and valuing family. And still, too often we find ourselves trying to make something work that was never meant and that is never going to work. So I want you to consider the man in your life if you are in a dating season. Is that guy a guy that you find yourself going back to? When things don't work out, you go your separate ways, but then you go back. Because I want you to consider this. If you keep spending your time going back to him, how is that moving you forward toward the success you say that you want and value in your life? Here's another thing, piggybacking off of that, relationships. Because sometimes it's not just the romantic part of our lives. Sometimes we have relationships with other people that are toxic. And these can be family members, these can be childhood friends, this can even be in the office. We have these relationships and we're holding on to them, and we can see that they are taking a toll on us. They are wearing us down. They are draining us, not adding any value to us, not contributing to where we desire and want to go in the future. And yet we find ourselves challenged to let them go. Now, as it relates to family, I understand you just can't let family go. But you can minimize how much time you spend with them. You can protect your space. You can protect your peace. So I want you to consider that as well. Do you have relationships in your life that are sucking the life out of you? Because if you do, then I want you to consider, how is that helping you, again, achieve success? How is that helping you develop the relationship you have with yourself? Now, you may say that wouldn't be helpful, but here's the thing. If you know it's not helping you, then why do you keep investing your time and energy in places and spaces with people who are being a deficit to your life. You have the ability to choose, and you have the ability to choose something different. A third thing to consider with the man, if you find yourself trapped in a relationship or trapped in a cycle or circle where you keep going back to an ex, I need you to remember why it's over. Meaning, when you had that breakup, whether he left you or you left him, when you went your separate ways, when you parted, why did it end? Because if you haven't changed and he hasn't changed, but you end up back together, then what's changed? The answer to that is nothing. And so then the question becomes, if you truly value success and you want success in your relationships and in your life, then why keep going back to a man, to a relationship that's just leaving you in a hole, in a deficit, lacking what you truly say you desire, what you truly say you want? Think about that. Because yes, he may have sweet talked his way back into your life. But again, it goes back to self and your values. And whether you truly are building up and investing in yourself and truly are aware of your self-worth. Because no matter what he says, ultimately, he can't come back into your life if you don't let him back into your life. And then I know there's temptation. So let me talk about that. Temptation comes in a number of different forms. It can come in wanting to get there quicker, and so then we take shortcuts that backfire on us. Temptation can come in the form of, I just want or need something in my life to release, to help me deal with the pressure, to deal with the anxiety, so we can find ourselves with bad habits or bad vices that are bad for our health. It can come in again in a form of relationships where we're saying, I know this guy is not good for me. I know I shouldn't be with him. But right now, I just need someone who can hear me out. Someone who would be there for me. Someone who, even if they don't have my best interest at heart, they will give me their shoulder to cry on. And the thing about this is the temptation to go back, to get involved with things that are toxic. Again, it keeps us in a trap. It keeps us stuck. It keeps us in opposition of what we say we want. And so I want you to consider, when you're dealing with the temptation of going back to an old habit, to an old person, to anything that you know is not best for you, consider this. How is this going to impact me in years to come? Because sometimes we just look at right now and we're saying, I just need this quick release. I need this quick win. I need this quick attention grabber. Well, I shouldn't say attention grabber, but this person who will give me their time, their attention. And we don't think about what that's going to cost us in the future. I was reading a book once, and it gave an example of 10, 10, 10, meaning 10 minutes, 10 hours, 10 days. Or you could even say 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years. In essence, what it was trying to get you to say, or see rather, is that look beyond right now. Because the choices that you are making are not just affecting your now, they're affecting your future. And so if you make this choice today to go back, is there going to be a choice in the future that you can say was for your good or it hurt you. And if you would say that it would hurt you, I challenge you to not go back because you already know what the end result is going to be. And that brings me into pressure. Sometimes there are societal pressures, and then sometimes there are self-imposed pressures. And so I want you to consider the type of pressure that you have in your life and ask yourself, is this societal pressure or is this pressure I put on myself? Meaning sometimes, for example, I'll use myself. My mom can't wait for grandkids. She's ready for grandkids. And although I know that she has this long list of names and she's like, I got all these names for you to choose from. In a sense, that can be considered pressure. Why? Because I know that there's an expectation that one day she's going to be a grandma. But guess what? That's her dream for me. And just because somebody else has a dream for you does not mean that it is your dream. So consider the people in your life and consider whether or not they have a dream for you. And whether or not your choices, your decisions, your behavior is showing up in a way to where you are living out somebody else's dream due to pressure, due to their expectations, their wants for your life. And then there's self-imposed pressure, where we say to ourselves, we made a goal and we're going for that goal. And even though it may be an unrealistic time frame or unrealistic time frame rather, we put this pressure on ourselves to hit that target, to hit that mark. And then when we don't hit it, we're disappointed and we're frustrated. But here's the thing. If we said it, we can unset it. If we've said it, we can move it. We can revise it. Because it's something that we put on ourselves. And so I challenge you to consider whether or not you have expectations, you have goals, you have thoughts, you have beliefs, you have behaviors that are keeping you boxed in and causing you to feel unnecessary stress, overwhelm, and frustration on your journey to success. Because if you are, then again, you are in a relationship with yourself to where you are in conflict with yourself. And it doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way. And again, you know you can work with me one-on-one. So you can always schedule a one-on-one session with me, and we can start breaking down some of those barriers that are causing you to put those pressures on yourself and get to the root of why you are doing that, because that's not helpful to you. And that goes into priorities. Sometimes we have not taken the time to consider our priorities, meaning what truly matters. And we think we have priorities. And on our road to success, oftentimes we are not clear on what those priorities are. And so what tends to happen is we have proclaimed priorities that we are not actually living out. We have said we value these things, but truly those things that we say we value aren't showing up in our life. And if they are, they're not showing up consistently. And so as it relates to your priorities, what are you putting first? Or who are you putting first? Because again, as ladies, as amazing, as wonderful as we are, there are times where we put ourselves on the back burner. And we do that because we're so busy, we're so caring, we're so giving, and we want to make sure that everybody else in our life has what they need, has what they want. And we're just, again, giving, giving, giving. But then who's giving back to us? Who's pouring back into us? Oftentimes there can be no one. And so I want you to really consider when it comes to your priorities, have you prioritized yourself? Have you prioritized your well-being? Have you prioritized your physical well-being? Have you prioritized your emotional well-being? Have you taken the time to prioritize your finances? All the things, all the different aspects and hats that you wear. Have you truly taken the time to put them under a lens and say, these are the things that matter to me, and here's how I'm investing in them, and making sure that I'm showing up, and I'm showing up in a way and in a space to where I am truly committed to getting the job done. And our thoughts. That goes into our thoughts. Because sometimes it is our thoughts, it is our mindset that keeps us trapped and that keeps us stuck. And when I say your thoughts, again, we spend so much time trafficking in relationships. We go right back to the man, thinking about what he wants, what he values, what he needs from us. And we find ourselves in a state, in a space where we are giving, where we are serving, where we are building a life in our head of who he is and what he wants in a relationship, but not truly taking the time to properly consider if what he wants, if what he values, if what he sees as his future is ideal and best for our future. So, I spoke on this before. Relationships are a big part of our life. We can't avoid them. And still, it is our job to make sure that we are making the best and wisest choices for us to move our life forward, to make sure that we have alignment in our life. But if our priority is him, if our focus is him, then guess what? We are leaving ourselves behind. And then we're wondering why we're stressed, frustrated, and overwhelmed with success and trying to achieve success for our lives. It's starting by and with the decisions that we are making in our lives. And lastly, your confidence. Yes, so if you're going to be confident in your life, that starts by how you're showing up for your life. And so this thing with confidence, it's not really something that you can physically touch. But I'm sure you have all seen a woman or even a man maybe, and you just looked at that person and they gave the appearance that, baby, I got it going on. Ma'am, I got my stuff together. Look at me. I'm moving forward. I got this. They just had this air about them that just made you believe, even though you may have never seen them before, that they didn't have a care in the world. And it's not that you can't have that, and you may feel that way at times, but do you feel that continuously confident in your space, in your skin, in the decisions that you're making, in the way that your life is turning out? No, everything in life is not going to turn out as you intended, but you can still look at where you are and what you have achieved and see some wins, see some lessons learned, because guess what? It's not necessarily a loss if you got a lesson from it. Think about that, because oftentimes when we face delays, when we face setbacks, we can see them as losses. But guess what? Those delays, those setbacks, those denials, because sometimes people say no and we just had high hopes that everything was going to work out. Those are lessons. And so then the value from that is for you to consider, what lesson did I gain here? What skills did I develop here? Because guess what? It takes some resourcefulness to seek people out, to try different things. So think about that and think about what it means to truly have confidence, and consider what you are calling confidence and what you are not calling confidence, because you get to define how confidence shows up in your life. You get to determine the way in which you show up. And that starts by what you're thinking in your head. Because we all know that our thoughts trigger feelings. And then those feelings show up in our behavior. And those behaviors become how we live out our lives. So the question on the floor is, what does your life show? If you had to put a verb to it, what verb would you describe as your life? Just a thought for you to consider. So I know I ran through a lot. You can replay this. This is a video. So do this, the video, and take a moment to truly reflect and answer the questions that I pose to you. It's to help you really see where you are. It matters. And the way you're showing up matters. Because again, that relationship with yourself is impacting everything else. Whether you realize it or not, it is. So, I said it before and I say it again. Too often, we take time and we make time to connect ourselves to other people without first making the investment in the connection in ourselves. And if you don't take the time to invest in you, who else will? As always, I'm Coach Sam telling you that 24 hours doesn't seem long, but in 24 hours you could change your life. So go ahead and do something life-changing now.